A mother's love shouldn't come with a receipt. But for Beatrice Whitmore, everything had a cost. On the glittering evening of her 60th birthday gala in downtown Portland, she didn't merely overlook her son, she erased him. Before donors, politicians, and socialites gathered beneath the chandeliers of the historic The Benson Portland, she raised a crystal glass, smiled for the cameras, and publicly disowned her only child. And then she had security escort him and her 7-year-old grandson into the cold November rain. But Beatrice made one mistake. She forgot someone else was watching. Her estranged older sister. And Eleanor Whitmore never forgot a debt. The fall. Daniel Whitmore had known humiliation before. He'd known what it felt like to juggle construction shifts by day and delivery routes by night. He knew eviction notices. He knew hunger disguised as late dinner. But nothing compared to standing in a ballroom full of Portland's elite while his own mother called him a parasite. His son, Caleb, clutched his hand. "Daddy, did we do something bad?" Daniel knelt, buttoning Caleb's coat tighter. "No, buddy," he whispered. Sometimes grown-ups forget how to be kind. Inside, applause erupted again as the party resumed. Outside, Daniel promised himself something. He would never beg again. The unexpected inheritance. 3 weeks later, a man in a navy suit knocked on Daniel's apartment door. "My name is Thomas Hale," he said. "I represent the estate of Eleanor Whitmore." Daniel blinked. He hadn't seen his aunt since childhood. His mother had always called her unstable, reclusive, paranoid. "She passed away 4 days ago," Hale continued gently. "And she amended her will the night of your mother's gala." Daniel's chest tightened. "The entirety of her estate," Hale said, opening a leather folder, "has been left to you and your son." Daniel laughed once hollow. "That's impossible." "It is not," Hale replied. "The liquid assets total approximately $35 million. The coastal property in Astoria is valued at 11. Daniel stopped breathing. "And your mother," he managed. Hale adjusted his glasses. "She receives one item. A framed photograph of herself. With a note that reads, 'You always preferred your own reflection.'" The condition. There was, of course, a condition. Daniel had to move into Eleanor's Cliffside Manor within 72 hours and remain there for 1 year. He could not sell it. And Beatrice Whitmore was never permitted to cross the threshold. If she did, the inheritance would dissolve and be donated to state charities. "She already knows," Hale warned. "And she is furious." Daniel's phone rang. "Mother." For the first time in his life, Daniel let it go to voicemail. The Manor. The house overlooked the Pacific, tall windows, slate stone walls, salt wind singing through iron gates. But it didn't feel sterile like his mother's mansion. It felt lived in. Warm. Mrs. Alden, Eleanor's longtime housekeeper, welcomed them with flour-dusted hands and sharp eyes. "She adored you," Mrs. Alden told Daniel quietly that first night. From a distance. "Your mother would have destroyed you if she'd known Eleanor was helping." Helping? Daniel learned the truth in fragments. The anonymous donor who covered Caleb's hospital bill when he broke his arm. The quiet payment that prevented Daniel's old landlord from filing eviction. The scholarship that paid for Caleb's private tutoring when he struggled with reading. All Eleanor. Watching. Protecting. Waiting. Beatrice strikes back. Beatrice did not attempt to storm the gates. She was smarter than that. Instead, she filed for custody. Her claim? Daniel was financially unstable, emotionally volatile, and isolating Caleb in a remote coastal fortress. Tabloids ran with it. Disgraced son hoards millions. Grandmother fights for child safety. Daniel nearly cracked. Until he found something in the attic. The journal. Hidden beneath loose floorboards was Eleanor's leather journal. The last 6 months were filled with entries about dizziness, confusion, medication that looked different, a groundskeeper who insisted the pharmacy had changed suppliers. One entry stopped Daniel cold. "I switched the capsules. Gave the new ones to Jasper." Jasper had been Eleanor's aging spaniel. "He died within hours. If I do not survive the winter, it will not be from my heart." Daniel's hands trembled. This wasn't paranoia. It was proof. The confrontation. The groundskeeper confessed quickly once confronted with evidence of wire transfers from Beatrice's private accounts. The plan had been simple. Sedate Eleanor into confusion. Declare her mentally incompetent. Invalidate the will. Regain control of the estate. But Eleanor had changed the will first. And left a paper trail. The courtroom. In Portland's Superior Court, Beatrice arrived in white silk and practiced tears. She painted Daniel as unstable, irresponsible, unfit. Then Thomas Hale projected foreclosure documents onto the courtroom screen. Beatrice's foundation was bankrupt, her mansion leveraged, her accounts drained. "You are not seeking custody out of love," Hale said calmly. "You are seeking access to a trust you can no longer control." When the affidavit about medication tampering was entered into record, the courtroom shifted. Beatrice didn't cry anymore. She snarled. Custody was denied. A restraining order issued. A criminal investigation opened. For the first time, Daniel saw his mother not as powerful, but desperate. 1 year later, the manor changed. The iron gates stayed open. The overgrown gardens bloomed. Instead of exclusive galas, Daniel hosted community festivals. The final sealed clause of Eleanor's will was opened after the 1-year condition was fulfilled. Behind a locked cellar door was not treasure. It was a war room. Maps of Oregon marked with colored pins. Shelters. After-school programs. Addiction recovery centers. Veteran housing. A letter sat on the desk. The house was never the inheritance. The work is. Eleanor had quietly funded half the county for 2 decades. Daniel understood then. The money wasn't for comfort. It was for correction. The true legacy. On the anniversary of the gala where he'd been cast out, Daniel stood on his lawn in jeans and rolled sleeves, flipping burgers for families who'd once stood in food lines. Caleb ran through the grass with other children. Laughter replaced applause. Warmth replaced spectacle. Beatrice Whitmore would later be convicted of fraud, financial crimes, and conspiracy tied to her sister's medical tampering. Her name faded from charity boards and society pages. Daniel never visited her. Some endings don't require confrontation. They require distance. Daniel Whitmore inherited millions. But what he truly inherited was purpose. And he proved something his mother never understood. Power can command a room. But compassion builds a legacy.